replaced Fishbone. We did the tour from April 1st to April 15th of 1987. I drove a van, and it was 6 of us in 2 rooms. But the Beastie Boys were a very strong element, very strong. I mean, they paved the roads for us. So that contrast of Public Enemy, Murphy's Law in the middle, and Beastie Boys closing it out was unbelievable exposure to the Northeast of the United States. And it's not possible without, you know, the Beastie Boys. So whenever I see people talk about great rap groups and they come up with these lists and all that, and then they don't talk about the significance of the Beastie Boys, but they'll talk about the significance of Eminem, which is important. But sometimes I say, well, Eminem, is it Jimmy Iovine behind it, just pushing it? Because everything the Beastie Boys did with Run DMC, letting them get the cosign, that was paramount. Without no Beastie Boys, there's no Eminem, no Third Base, no Vanilla Ice, and nothing. And you know, Beastie Boys.
But let me throw this in there, Chuck. You know, I think you mentioned an incredible point there around black entertainment tragedy, right? Because, you know, black radio wasn't all that supportive of hip-hop at that point in time. And the irony is that, you know, when y'all are coming through, there's some adventurous stuff happening. I mean, you mentioned you replaced Fishbone in the tour. I mean, this is the moment the Black Rock Coalition and Fishbone and 24/7 Spies and Living Color. And I remember y'all cut that remix of Living Color Funny Bop, right? And this is after the Yusef Hawkins thing. And I remember saying to myself, the kind of statement that this song is making about police brutality, how the hell does WBLS not play this on the radio? Right? So the fact that you were able to chart a course without having that kind of support that rappers today just take for granted. Right? The other thing I wanted to throw out in terms of accessibility, and it comes out in that fight the power thing. You can't get, right, if you talk about a Common or a Mos Def, I mean, all these folks that we think of as conscious rappers, you want them to come to your local high school, you got to deal with a publicist, you got to deal with a representative, you know, from the label. When I bought Rebel Without a Pause, I bought the Tower Records up on 66th Street, right? Bought an Eric Dolphy album the same day, right? I was standing online, Dougie Fresh was standing online behind me, right? What's up, Doug, right? First time I saw LL was walking down 125th Street. When you see that video for Fight the Power, right? Shot 10 o'clock in the morning in Brooklyn, right? And it talked about how accessible hip-hop was. I mean, you could touch these cats, right? They were a part of your community. There was no separation. If you needed, you know, when Ice-T came to New York and you running with Ice-T going to high schools in New York, it was just a totally different moment, right? And to talk about, you know, when we talk about conscious rap now, it is that significant distance, right? Hip-hop was something that was made in our communities at that point in time, even as it's reaching to these broader communities, right? And, you know, talk about where these cats live now, right? If you can live out in the suburbs of New Jersey, I'm cool with that if you're Jay-Z, right? But the bottom line is, right, it doesn't mean that they're close to the community anymore, and it doesn't mean necessarily that the community informs their music the same way anymore.
That's you touched on a big, one of the biggest things, accessibility. I mean, you have cats out there screaming, you know, yeah, BX, but okay, but you're upstate, that's cool. But how often can we get you back to the BX just to be in something? And whether it's school functions, whether it's, you know, can you actually give a piece of your time? And this has metastasized across the nation to local rap artists who are just like, well, it's a two-sided coin. They're not, the arts are not supported, especially the black arts are not supported by the broadcast local community. Therefore, you can't make a quote-unquote star in your locale. If you can't make a star in your local area, how could this star support the community? So the broadcast community does not support the black arts, so therefore the black arts over the last 20 years is taught to not support the community. See, if you have an artist, let's say, right here, one of the greatest artists and producers of all time, he gets blasted to the point where, it's hard for a person to get played in North Carolina, period. It's easy for him to build proteges to go by, go down to that school, go over there and help this drive over here, because he has the biggest profile in the local area. He's quote unquote, oh, that's the biggest star I know. BET, you're doing your Thug Network.
Anybody else go?
The national aspect has wiped out the locale. Therefore, if a kid growing up in Gaston or whatever, might never seen nobody in his whole life in real life. Especially not in no Kroger, you know, I mean, not in no Cracker Barrel or whatever. But the only thing they looking at, they looking on TV, right? BET is taking over by saying, you know what, we could promote the national ghost. And we can ghost your hero and take away the reality of your local. So you always look at somebody that we throw at you in an image to make you look at somebody you see in real life as being, you know, inferior to that. This has been the biggest problem since the existence of, not just, forget public enemy, because I mean, we've done a lot of things around the world to compensate, and we were part of another era where we said, how do you make the global aspect and also make it work locally? But over the last 15 years, the last 20 years especially, the local artists and the local arts have been disrespected in the lieu of national profit and greed, in the lieu of national artists that will never ever spend no time in your hometown. And this has been the biggest mark to the arts. This is why they cry about the music industry going down. That's one of the biggest reasons that the music industry has fell, because the lack of supporting a grassroots situation from a homegrown standpoint. And you know what? That's why I've always been a sports fan. Right now I'm reading Satchel Page's book on the iPad. So, you know, I bought Satchel Page's book twice to put in my homes, right? But I read it for the first time on my iPad. And going through Satchel Page, being born in Mobile, Alabama, growing up in Mobile, Alabama, throwing a 108-mile fastball with no gun, you know, right, in 1927, and going to